Okay, let's get started. Okay. Hello and welcome everyone to our special guest lecture organized by Religion 520 Religion of India class, sponsored by the Department of Religious Study of University West. My name is Miro Sake, Chair of Department of Religious Study and also instructor of this Religion of India class. And I'm pleased to introduce our distinguished guest speaker, Dr. Deepak Shimkhada. Deepak Shimkhada is a Nepali American educator, artist, art historian, author, and community leader. He is currently served as an adjunct professor at Chaffetz College in Rancho Cucamonga, California. He has previously held visiting adjunct appointment at several universities in the United States, including Scripps College, Claremont Graduate University, California State University, Northridge, and even our school, University of West, and Claremont School of Theology. He is a founding president of Indic Foundation and the Himalayan Art Council. He is also a founding board member of South Asian Studies Association. He published many journal and newspaper article, book chapter, edited book, and recently he published a book titled Nepal to California, A Life of Adventure and Memory, and also edited two books, Nepal, a historical study of a Hindu kingdom, and Nepal, a Shangri-La, a narrative culture, contact, and memory. And he has also exhibited his painting and graphics in group and one-man show in Nepal, India, Japan, and United States. Notably, he has appeared as a commentator in several episodes of History Channel series Asian Alien. The topic of today's lecture is the power of three Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva in Hindu mythology and art. And I'm very grateful to him for accepting my invitation to be a guest lecturer for the second time for this course. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming Dr. Shimkhada.
Thank you, Professor Shakya, for inviting me to speak, which I consider an honor. I appreciate the work you do to promote the arts and cultures and religions of South Asia. And I know you have done a lot of research and also organized many seminars, conferences, and also publications. So let me share my slides, first of all. All right, can you see the slides?
Yes.
All right, okay, then let me begin with a slightly different approach. I hope it will be a mixed bag of various things, science, mythology, art, religion, philosophy, and everything combined into it. So, so in this lecture, we will explore the role of three major Hindu deities, namely Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, and how they are depicted in the South Asian and also Southeast Asian art. That is what, the topic of today. And I'm also teaching a course at JFE, where the Hindu art is part of the course. So this actually relates directly to my course. So that's why I have invited my students, and I know some of them are here this morning. All right, so let me go to another slide. All right, so the lecture plan is basically, I'm going to talk about Hindu cosmology and cosmogony, the two different ideas, what is cosmology and what is cosmogony, and their origin, place, and function, and religious and philosophical foundations for the art for the deities. They all have some basic foundation, and they're all related to Hindu cosmology and cosmogony. So we will explore some of that ideas here today. And then, of course, the representation of gods in various temples. These are all religious products. They are done for temple sculptures, idols to be worshipped. So the temples, sculptures, and also the paintings, we would not only have sculptures, but also paintings. So I will have some examples of them today. And before I go there, so let me begin with the cosmology then. Imagine a universe without anything in it except a point called Bindu. That point is a concentrated mass of energy, which, though very tiny, was so powerful that when it exploded, according to scientists, it caused the Big Bang. So according to scientists, the universe was born some 14 billions of years ago. However, for the Hindu, it is a different story. Now I'm going to cite one passage from Nasadiya Sukta in the Rig Veda, now which says, I quote, "Then even nothingness was not, nor existence. There was no air then, nor the heavens beyond it. What covered it? Where was it? In whose keeping was there then cosmic water, in depth unfathomed?" So this is the direct translation of a verse from the Nasadiya Upanishad. And the Upanishad implies that neither non-existence nor existence existed in the beginning. So this is a kind of paradoxical idea, right? And this is possible only if there is no time. How can that be, right? Veda says there was no time before the creation. Now, modern science also agrees with this hypothesis. According to Stephen Hawking, there was no time before the Big Bang, and time began only at the moment of the Big Bang, right? So there is some parallels between what the scientists believe and what the Hindu mythology says. Now, second line of Sukta talks about the absence of the sky and atmosphere. If there were the case, what covered these timeless things? Where, who, what is responsible for this? All right, so my purpose is not to argue or disagree or they agree with these statements. I'm simply pointing out what the science says and what the Hindu mythology says. So then, now Hindu concept of time is really vast, so I'm not going to go into that. Now, with this brief introduction, so I'm going to welcome you all to my presentation. And thank you for joining me on this Zoom. And from different time zones, I know I see some faces from Nepal. For example, Bipin Raj Shrestha, who has been with me for a number of years. He is here, and also one of my PhD students from Kathmandu, from Tribhuvan University in Kathmandu. Om Khatri is here. So some of my CFE students are here as well. So welcome all, and then I'm going to now begin with my slides. And I would suggest that you keep all your questions ready at the very end of the presentation, and then I will open the floor for any questions at the very end. Now I'm going to show you, I think some of you might know already because I have shown these slides in my class. This is a map, the diagram that I have drawn myself. And in order to make it very simple, this is the idea of the universe, right? With the kind of a round circular is the concept of universe, which is obviously stretching, expanding universe. And within that universe, this is the cosmogony. This is not a cosmology which is the study of the our solar system. Is not our galaxy solar system. This is the entire firmament, the entire universe beyond our solar system, beyond our galaxy, the other galaxies. There are billions of galaxies according to science. So this combines everything. And now in this cosmogony is, according to Hindu concept, is the Brahman, the unmanifest ultimate reality, right? And that is unmanifest, but then it also manifests. And that's why we see everything. What we see everything is that manifested idea of the Brahman. And then he creates the he, or I should not even say he, rather, it is she, it is he, it is it. So it has no gender. It is the energy, the power that creates everything. So it has created Brahma for us to see, the creator God, Vishnu, the preserver, and then Shiva, the destroyer. So this is and how the universe is divided into 3 levels. The top level, you have this upper heaven, you might call it, then the middle heaven, then you have all these the Hindu gods, 330 million Hindu gods live there, and then you have the human realm, which we live on this earth, that's with the gravity and populated by humans, animals, and other living beings. And then beyond that, then we also have a demonic realm where you have which is populated by demons. They are called Danavas, Daityas, Rakshasa, whatever you want to call them. So this is a whole realm. Everything is populated by all of these entities here. So the Brahman is unmanifest. Then again, it makes itself manifest in a myriad of forms for us to experience by sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. So that's how we relate to our reality. What we see, what we hear, that is our reality. And this is all the manifestation of Brahman, which is in fact is unmanifest. So as a result, we are able to appreciate and enjoy what we see, what we hear, what we eat, smell, and feel. So that's our reality. So the myriad of objects and images that we experience is the manifestation of that ultimate reality called Brahman. All right. So then let me go to the images itself. Now we are not, this is not a course about, this is not a talk about philosophy, in abstract. We're dealing with concrete objects. For example, these artworks, which is either a sculpture, temple, architecture, or painting. Now, these are the 3 godheads, according to Hindu understanding. Brahma, who is the god of creation, creator God. Then you have Vishnu, who is a preserver. After what is created, that has to be preserved, that has to be maintained. And then, of course, everything that is created eventually comes to an end, right? And that is the dissolution part that is supervised, handled, or overseen by God Shiva. So then we have these 3 entities. In a sense, they also represent idea of time. Now, what is created is in the past. So the God, then this Brahma becomes the past, and this is the present. What we see, what we do here, this is the present. Vishnu then is God of the present time. And then what is going to happen in the future, we do not know. That is God Shiva. So these 3 gods then represent past, present, and future. The whole idea of a time frame. Now the beginning here, if you draw a line, this is all I created these slides myself. The time beginning and the end, and within this time frame, all the field of actions, the adventures takes place. What we call karma bhumi. Then we do our labor, we work, and this is all. Everything is happening here within this time frame. So this is a beautiful idea of time, represented by these 3 godheads. Brahma in the past, Vishnu in the future and Shiva, I'm sorry, Vishnu in the present and Shiva in the future. And now, in a sense, I always compare these three gods like architect. We hire an architect to design a home, a building. He comes and designs the building, and then he constructs the building, but he does not live in it. So, he gives it to the person who hired to design a building. And then the occupant, the tenant, the person then lives in the house, and he takes care of the house, he maintains the house. So that is Vishnu. And then eventually the building, the house, will come to a dissolution, will come to a ruin, will be destroyed at some point in time. So that is Shiva. And now these three gods, as you can see, they are not alone. They are always paired with a female counterpart, either called consort or simply a female Shakti. Shakti is a power, energy. So they are always paired with female energy. And it is called Shakti. And Shakti is nothing but the energy, the power that gives the god to act what he is supposed to do, right? Without that energy, he cannot act. So he is like a dead person. He's like a corpse. And that's why, there's a beautiful saying that Shiva, who is the most powerful god, who is auspicious god, is active because of his Shakti, his Parvati, his consort. If you take that consort away from him, then Shiva becomes Shava. This play of a word in Sanskrit, Shiva is that auspicious, most powerful god. And then without Parvati, then he becomes Shava. Shava means a corpse. So he's just like a corpse. He has no energy. He is dead. So then Shakti is very, very important aspect of Hindu gods and Hindu gods. So that's why see all these gods are shown with his female counterpart. Now Brahma has Saraswati, and Vishnu has Lakshmi, and Shiva has Parvati. And with them together, they become complete. Now, let me then examine some of the artworks of Brahma, who is a creator god, and how Brahma has been envisioned by the artist, how it is stated in a text, and how the text has been faithfully, transcribed, transformed, translated into stone or into a painting. All right. Now, this is an example of the 6th, 7th century sculpture. This is actually a relief from a temple in Aiholi in South India. Now you can see Brahma sits right in the center of it. He's the main god. So, how beautifully it is balanced, how there's just so much symmetry going on. And if you just draw a line right in there, he's right in the center, flanked by some of his, attendants, worshippers. These are the people who are kind of paying tribute to him, homage to him, coming to worship him. These are all sages, bowing down, and here in the heaven, they are, pouring water, throwing flowers, and this kind of things. And then you can see he is up, of course, up in the heaven, being a creator god. He lives in the heaven, and then it is depicted by these clouds, beautifully formed clouds. So this is the indication of the heavenly realm. And these are all sages coming to worship Brahma. And Brahma is always shown with 4 heads. Now, of course, in a sculpture, even in a painting, you cannot, show 4 heads. It would be kind of awkward. So imagine there is a head behind him, so that makes 4. 3 in the front and 1 in the back. So you have to imagine that he has 4 heads. All right. And as a creator god, he's given attributes. So he has 4 hands. He has a kamundalu, a water vase, because water is symbolizes life. And then he has a rosary for meditation, for concentration, and he has a ladle to offer ghee for homa, for fire sacrifice. And then he has sometimes he holds a scripture, a Veda in his hand, but this time, he's simply offering you boon. So this is a beautifully designed sculpture from Aiholi, India. And now let's examine some of the. Now this one, obviously he has 4 heads. This is a painting, of course, and then he is holding scripture, a Veda in his hand. He is the creator of the Vedas. He composed Vedas and so forth. And of course, this one is the ladle. He's holding it, and he's holding a kamandalu water vase with his hand, and he's chanting, or he's uttering some verses and making a gesture with his hand, of course. And all these deities also have to have a vehicle, a mount with which to carry, with which to travel. We have a car, we have airplanes today, and they had animal vehicles, either a bird or a 4-footed animal, bull, this and that, and I will show you a little later on. So he has a swan as his mount. So he rides on his swan, and then he travels. All right, and here, this is an interesting illustration, whereas this is the 17th century painting. This one is a modern 20th century painting of Vishnu sleeping, resting on this Ananta Sheshanaga, this endless serpent on which he reclines, and from his navel springs the lotus flower, and then on top is seated Brahma with 4 heads, as you can see. So there are some sectarian differences. We are not going to go into that in this class. There is the Vaishnava version, and there is the Shiva version. And in the Vishnu Purana, Brahma emerges from Vishnu's navel, right? In the Shiva Purana, the Shivas ask Vishnu to create Brahma, and then Brahma, then as a creator god, then he creates the universe. So this is all different versions according to various texts. Now, how the same Brahma has been envisioned, created by different artists in different at different time at different places. Now, this is a Cambodian Brahma, and how the Brahma has been envisioned. And then, of course, the iconography is basically the same. Of course, the treatment of the dress, the crown, the jewelry, and other things are slightly different. It also kind of, depicts the ethnicity of the place, the people who created this. But other than that, the basic iconography, that he has 4 heads, that he has this, he has that, he has 4 hands, all of those the attributes are pretty similar. And then what he holds, like a ladle, like a book, or the water vase, and all of that. Now this one is from Cambodia, and this is from Thailand. It's a neighboring country, and basically, the iconography is basically the same. Now this is, of course, a gold plated gold in a golden color. Now I've got 2 examples of Brahma, the head of Brahma from Cambodia. The unique aspect of Cambodian art is that, they all have the unibrow. There's no indication of 2 eyebrows. Both eyebrows are connected like a bridge. So this is a unibrow, and which is a typical identifying mark of Cambodian art, the unibrow. And then eyes are a little kind of weird because they're kind of stylized. They do not look real. But the nose is very, very naturalistic. And they all have, the male statues have given a mustache, which is unique. And this is, I think, is a symbol of royalty. because the mustache of manhood, manly, and in royalty, many royal figures did have mustache. So this is given a mustache. Of course, he is the God, creator God. And then they have all full lips, very sensual, full lips, and a kind of rounded face, and kind of elongated earlobes, very reminiscent of Buddha images of the time, because all the Buddha images have elongated earlobes. So they're also given kind of elongated earlobes. The idea that they wore heavy earrings, jewelry, and as a result, the earlobes were extended by the weight of the jewelry. And now this is interesting crown. As opposed to Indian crown tends to be very elaborate, kind of shorter, but then the Cambodian crown is tall, and it's like a conical, like a what I call, I like to compare this with our modern chef hat. In Europe, I have seen the chef, wearing a very tall white hat. It's very similar to that. This is the unique aspect of all Cambodian art. And that is, of course, given here to Brahma and many other deities that we will see later. All right, and Brahma is not a very popular character when it comes to, the images and temples. In India, usually people think there is only one temple in Pushkar, that is in Rajasthan, and there's another one. But in addition to these two major temples in India dedicated to Brahma, there are actually total of six temples dedicated to Brahma, whereas there are literally hundreds and thousands of temples dedicated to Vishnu, Shiva, Krishna, and you name it, the goddess Durga, and all of the other gods and goddesses. But Brahma does not become a popular god in Hinduism, because he is, after all, a creator god, and he done his job, and then he goes into retirement. He's often shown in a old man and long beard, like a grandfather type of person who has lost his power, and then he goes into kind of retirement. So he is not actively worshipped by people. And also there are a lot of mythology to vindicate that, why he has gone into retirement, because this Brahma is a god who is easily pleased. If you want to get some boon, if you want to get some gift from a god, you rather go to Brahma, because he's an easily pleased god. You can please him right away, whereas it takes a long time for you to please Vishnu or Shiva or goddess this, goddess that. This guy, he's in retirement. No one comes to see him. When someone comes to see him, so he becomes happy, right? What can I give you? I'm happy because you came to see me, right? This kind of psychology, I think, is playing here. So, and then he is easily pleased. So the people who want to grab power, or who is a power hungry person, so they please Brahma, and then he's easily pleased, and then he gives a boon to these people. For example, he has given boon to Hiranyakashipu, Mahishasura, Ravana, and all these bad characters in mythology, and then with unlimited power, right? And then what happens? Then then they misuse the power, and they torture human beings, they torture gods, and then of course then Vishnu and Shiva have to come to rescue, come into play to rectify the problems that Brahma has created. So there are a lot of stories about that. Okay, let me. These three gods are pretty popular, may not be in India, but also in Southeast Asia. Then I'm going to show you this particular temple structure, temple complex from Indonesia, from Java, Indonesia. Prambanan is the name of the place, Prambanan, and it is in Java, Indonesia, 9th century temple structure. There are three major temples dedicated to three major gods, okay, Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Now here, Shiva becomes the focus, because it is the biggest temple of the three. They're all lined together. In the middle is the Shiva temple, which is the biggest one, as you can see. To its left is Vishnu, and to its right is Brahma. So these are the images that are placed inside the shrine. I have placed right up here so that you can see the image from inside the shrine. Now I'm going to go to now, because with the lack of time, I don't know whether I can cover, there are more than 60 slides, so I'm going to go very quickly. Now let's talk about Vishnu. Now Vishnu has all of these, except for Brahma. Vishnu, Shiva, they have 1,000 names, all right? And the Vishnu has the most popular name, of course, of Vishnu is Narayana, Narahari, Vasudeva, Keshava, Hari, etc., etc., etc. There are, 1,000 names. All right. Now, Vishnu is always depicted in 4 hands, 2 legs and but 4 hands. Only 1 head, as opposed to Brahma. Brahma has 4. Now he is called Chaturbhuja Narayan because he has 4 hands. Chatur, 4, Bhuja, hands. So he's a Chaturbhuja, 4-handed god. And then he also has the avatar. Here in America we call avatar. In Sanskrit it is called avatara. So he has 10 avatars. Das avatara, das means 10, avatara means incarnation. So he has 10 incarnations. So and they are, I have listed them here, begins with the lowest form of animal, lowest form of life. So it is kind of biological evolution. Like you can see the amoeba, the matsya is the fish, water creature, and then the kurma is the tortoise, and varaha is half man, half boar, and the narasimha half man, half lion. Vamana is a midget, dwarf, and then of course the Parashurama, the fully human being, and the Rama, Krishna, Buddha. Buddha is also one of the avatars of Hinduism. And then finally, Kalki is not here yet. This is like a Messiah that is to come yet. In a Judeo-Christian concept, there's a Messiah who will be coming later. Similarly, in Hinduism too, there's a concept of a future God, future Vishnu coming in the form of Kalki. That will be sometime in the future. And of course, this is the age of Kalki, the final stage of this cycle, Manvantara. So this is how it works. And then Vishnu is in the center, and then all his incarnations are, given here. He's surrounded by all of these 10 incarnations. Now, I'm not going to go with every incarnation because it's going to take a lot of time. I'm just going to show you one interesting aspect. Now, this is from India. This is a totally mutilated, desecrated image, and the nose and face is all destroyed. This is a Gupta period, 5th, 6th century CE, and he has 2 incarnation, Narasimha and then Varaha, the boar and then lion. And this one is a modern rendition of the Vishnu with 4 hands, Chaturbhuja Vishnu. And now these are 3 images, one from India, one from Thailand, the other one is from Cambodia. The same Vishnu images, how they are depicted, and you can see the differences between these three major images. The Vishnu image from Bengal, Eastern India, is this from the Pala period, 11th century. He's a classical figure in a standing with his legs standing in an erect position, with the four hands and holding each attribute. In his four hands he holds a discus, which is a Sudarsana chakra, like a flying guillotine. In another hand he holds a club. In another hand he holds a shankha, a conch shell. And in another hand he holds a lotus. He kind of gives you boon. So he has these four attributes that he holds on each of his hands. And then of course he has his the consort shown in either side. So that's that. And then this is from Thailand, 14th century. After 300 years, how he's seen, how he's understood in Thailand. He has basically the same attributes that he holds: shankha, conch shell, discus, and rosary, or blessing, and then club. He does not show club, but then he holds a club. And here the same thing, even though the hands are broken, he is pretty much shown in the same fashion. Now, the crown there is a slightly difference in crown here. Even though there's in the back, there's a kind of conical tapered crown here, but this one is more kind of not tapered, but the cylindrical type of crown that you see here. And similarly, being neighbors of Thailand, Cambodia is very much dependent on the art of the neighboring countries, which is Thailand. So it pretty much reflects the iconography of its northern neighbor, which is Thailand. So you see the same kind of chef hat wearing without much embellishment. Is a very plain chef hat. All right, and then I'm going to take you back to Nepal, where these are two images of Vishnu riding on a Garuda. Garuda is his vehicle, which transports him. It's an avian character, because it flies in the sky. And of course, Vishnu is god of the sky. So, it matches his personality, his traits. So he is seated on his back, and then Garuda then takes him wherever he wants to go. And Garuda is a mighty bird, half man and half a bird, eagle, half human being. So it's a composite of eagle and human being. So beautifully depicted the 7th century figure here. Look at his feathers of, making a kind of aura, giving a kind of mandala, creating a beautiful circle here. And then against his background, then he sits for Chaturbhuja Vishnu with four hands, so holding club and then discus and then conch shell, and he's also ready to give you boon if you can please him. So this is a typically beautiful image from Nepal of this era. Have a lot of reliance on the Gupta art of India, with a beautiful idealized figure, with a very proportionate height, proportionate weight of this figure, with very few embellishment, few jewelries on his body. But then he has a very beautiful crown that you see in India and in Nepal. But when you go to Thailand and Cambodia, the crown becomes very plain, very simple, conical, like a chef hat, plain. And this one is slightly later, 11th century. And you can see there are some evolution taking place in terms of the treatment of the feathers of this bird, Garuda, eagle. Look at this beautiful feathers, almost like peacock's feather rather than eagle's feather. And then, of course, he has uh, a halo on his back of his head, and he's holding the same four attributes. And go back to, let's say again, in Nepal, where in Nepal, Chango Narayan is the first Vishnu temple in Nepal, which has a history connected to the King Manadeva, and he built a pillar at that place at 464, and then of course a temple was built. Even it has its history going back further, but then the later structure is very recent structure of the Mulla period. Anyway, instead of going into the history of the temple, we can imagine, we can discuss the artistic style of Vishnu riding on a Garuda. It has very similar to the one that we see earlier. The feathers of this bird, Garuda, is very decorative with beautiful feathers in the back. And then Vishnu sits in a royal position, commanding the animal, the bird, and then on a flight. So he's regal, and then this figure is located right there in the compound of Chango Narayan. And then we have another beautiful image from around the same period is the Vishwarupa, the Vishnu showing his universal manifestation, because when this has a connection with Bhagavad Gita, when Krishna is giving a sermon, giving a teaching to Arjuna, and he does not believe what he's saying, then in order to impress him, then he appears in his Vishwarupa, with multiple heads, multiple arms, multiple legs, the total, showing everything in him. So, he is the true God. So then finally, Arjuna then believes in what he's saying, because he sees the universality, the universal image of this, of Krishna, the God, God incarnate in Krishna, Vishnu's image in Krishna. So this is that time where he manifests his Vishwarupa. And of course, Vishwarupa is that fantastic image of God. And then, every creature in the universe is coming, to appreciate, to admire, to adore God Vishnu, and they're all, praying and folding their hands. And this is that time. Okay. And then on the bottom, the Vishnu is sleeping in this, the thousand-headed Naga, the Ananta Naga here. So it has two representation. One is the sleeping Narayana. The other one is, showing his Vishwarupa. Okay, let's go very quickly. And then, of course, Vishnu is represented in many, many different forms. And he has Trivikrama form. He covers the entire universe with his three steps. There is a beautiful story about this, so I'm not going to talk about that because of lack of time. This is that moment when he, covers the entire universe with his feet, with his one foot planted on earth, the another foot, reaching the deep space. So the entire universe that he covers. So this is that moment, and Vishnu it is also from Nepal. All of these two figures, and this one is from India. Now, how there's a slight difference between the iconography. Now, this one is the androgynous form of Vishnu. Vishnu not only appears in male aspect of himself as a Vishnu, as a Narayana, but he also appears combining his female aspect, his female Shakti that he has. This figure gives you that both half male Vishnu, right half, and then left half is female, which is Lakshmi. So this is that figure. All right. And this is the figure that was stolen from a temple, and it was found in Dallas Museum of Art, and now it has been reunited. It has been returned to Nepal recently, and so this has, was in the news because of the stolen aspect of the image. So now this is a beautiful image, now returned, as I said, and has those, all the two aspects combined. When those two aspects are combined, he has a different name. Vaikuntha Kamalaja. Okay, that's the name. All right. Then the three Vikrama happens with the Brahmana avatar. When Vishnu appears as a dwarf, as a little dwarf midget, so he comes to ask for a boon from this demon king Bali, and then he grants him the wish, the boon, and then he covers the entire universe. The boon was, let me have the land that I cover with my 3 steps. And he says, granted. He gives him his wish to cover the land that he can occupy with 3 steps. And of course, this midget, this dwarf being God himself, Vishnu himself, in disguise, then he covers, the entire universe with 1 steps. He covers the earth, and then 2nd steps he covers the deep space, the entire universe, and he promised 3 steps. Now, where is my 3 steps? Right, I cover the entire universe. Where will I put my 3rd step? And he has no place to give a 3rd step, so he offers his head. Put your foot on my head, and then by pressing him, then he sends him to a nether world, Patala. Then he's vanished. So this is the story, and this is the guy that the midget comes as a child mendicant, and then he asks for his 3 boon, and this is the one. He puts his head under his foot. So each one is different. How the dwarf is represented. Now only place here in India, this dwarf becomes an old man. But in the text, in the Vamana Avatara, there's the Vamana Purana, he is depicted as a young boy, not even a teenager, a boy, 10 years old, 12 years old boy, as a mendicant. Then he comes to ask for boon. All right. And this Vamana again here appears in Gujarat in India, a little pot belly boy, and he carries an umbrella, and then he asks for a boon. This is from Patan, not to be confused with Patan in Kathmandu Valley. There's a Patan in Gujarat where I have been there twice, luckily, and then this is found, in a step well, Rani Ki Vav. This is beautiful step well, and then you have all these carvings, as you go down, 13-story deep down. It's very, very deep, going down and coming up. It's a beautiful place. Now, I'm going to take you back to Nepal, Kathmandu, Buddha Nilakantha, where you have a sleeping Vishnu, actually, in a body of water. There's a pond here. Sometimes the water gets all the way filled up, and then he gets submerged, but mostly, it remains halfly submerged. So he's supposed to be, sleeping in a cosmic ocean, Milky Way, cosmic somewhere up there. This is the representation of that sleeping Narayana. All right, so now Narahari, then we saw the male and female, the conjoining of male and female, right? But now we also have, at a time where we are talking about all these gender issues and all that. So here we have Hari Hara is a unique aspect of God, both male combined together, same sex. The one we saw was the opposite sex, male and female. But here now we have both male and male. In that case, this particular iconography is called Hari Hara. Hari meaning Vishnu, Hara meaning Shiva. So Hari Hara is the Vishnu and Shiva together. Now you can see here, this is one half is Shiva, the another half is Vishnu. One with the trident and damaru is Shiva, the white part, which is the left half, and then the right half is Vishnu, the blue part, because Vishnu has a blue color. All right, this is a painting and this is a sculpture you can see here. And how can you tell? This is very difficult to tell without the vahanas, on which the vahana is his vehicle, on which they are standing. Now he is standing, one foot is standing on his Garuda bird, the other foot is standing on his bull. The Shiva rides on a bull. So this is how you can tell. These are the clues by which we can identify these images. Then Shiva, let's go to Shiva. This is the end of our talk. Now Shiva has, again, like a Vishnu, 1,000 names. So it's just impossible to, name all the 1,000 names. So I've got a few of them here. Ardha Narishwara, half male, half female, right? Rudra, Vairava, Mahakala, Mahesha, Mahadeva, Maheshwara, Sadashiva, Dakshinamurti, Nataraja, Urdhalinga Mahadeva, Lakulisha, Shankara, Sambhu, Hara, Trilochana, Devendra, Nilakanta, and so forth. So this is just goes on and on and on. All right, this is a modern depiction of Shiva in a marble statue. You can see Shiva is wrapped around by Naga, the black cobra. Black cobra forms his jewelry, his garland. He's after all god of destruction. He overcomes death. Death does not mean anything to him because he is, of course, the lord of the destruction, death. So so the black cobra cannot harm him. All right, so this is the idea. So, and he's a yogi. Yogi meaning one who practices yoga, and he is often shown with just the wrapped around with a tiger's skin. Sometimes he even walks naked, and his body is smeared with ashes as a yogi, and he has a long hair. They're all in dreads, and he has a third eye. So that's a identification of him, one with the third eye, Trilochana. All right. And then he sits in meditation, in a yogic posture with his legs crossed in a lotus position. So that is his typical classical idea of being a yogi. And this one, I'm going to take you to India in Elephanta caves of the 8th century in India, off of Bombay. Today is Mumbai, about an hour's boat ride. This is a small island called Elephanta. So this is where, there are several caves. They're all Shiva caves. And at the end of the cave, there's a huge statue of Shiva in his 3 manifestations. A female aspect and his angry aspect, and his main figure is one, who is totally controlled, totally calm, totally peaceful. So this is the 3 aspects of Shiva, 3 qualities, 3 gunas. That is depicted here. All right. And then, of course, so Shiva is also shown in basically in not anthropomorphic, simply a linga. This is not anthropomorphic. There is no a human image here. simply a shaft and a Shiva linga, supported by linga. So this is a male and female, again, unification of male and female. Symbolically, this is what Shiva linga represents. And this is, in many of the temples, simply have a Shiva linga. There is no human figure there. But some of the Shiva lingas also come with the head of a human being, Shiva's head, sometimes with only one face, called Eka one Mukha linga, one face linga. Sometimes you have Chatur Mukha linga, four face, facing in to each cardinal directions. And sometimes it is also said five-headed. For example, in Pasupatinatha, he's supposed to have a fifth head on top, which is facing the sky. And if you are facing the sky, then there's nothing in the sky. So the top remains abstract. So technically he has five heads. The one on top is abstract, so you do not see it. So this is a copper covering of the Shiva linga. Is simply, it's a hollow. You take it out and you put it back in. So this is that copper covering of the linga. All right. Now again, the fifth head, it has its different name and what it does. So I hope I'm not going to go with that right now because of the lack of time. It's a Panchamukha Shiva linga. There's the first one, is this Srishti, the creation, preservation. The second one is Sthiti, the preservation. If it is created, that has to be preserved. And then, concealment, Tirobhava, and then the revelation, Anugraha, and then finally the destruction, the Loya or the Samhara. So all of these five heads represent different things. And so they're all symbolically represented here. All right. And then Shiva's famous, another form is Nataraja. Shiva is a great dancer with his dance. There is also a story that he created the universe with his dance. This is the dance of creation. And in the 1970s, the great physicist Fritjof Capra wrote a book called The Tao of Physics, and in which there's a chapter dedicated to the Nataraja, the creation dance. And then because he, as a physicist, he uses atoms and neutrons and protons, all of those particles. The nature of these particles are always active. They are always dancing, jumping around. They are not static. They are not sitting idle. They're always vibrating as though they are dancing, right? And then of course that's the active part of the universe. So, and then he compares the dance of Shiva, which is active, which is energetic. Dancing is, the same elements, the same nature found in these particles. And that's why, he compares these two. And he got a lot of flack, after writing that book in the 70s, because, now, of course, a lot of physicists now agree with him, because, of course, the universe is active, universe is aware, universe is, organic, and all these particles do dance, and then, if they stop dancing, then of course the universe will collapse. So anyway, so this is something that you need to be compared, you need to be analyzed, and you need to see whether or not it makes sense. So this beautifully conceived image of dancing Shiva is a perfect example of harmony, balance, symmetry. Look at this, you can dissect this image by drawing a line here from here to there, it's a straight line and another line, cutting right in the middle, his left hand and the right hand, and then his legs, how it is balanced, all of that. So you could, and do an analysis of this figure, and people have done that. And then of course he has a matted hair, and as you dance, there's a frenzy dance. Then all these hair, they fly like, in a rhythmic way, creating waves and creating, wonderful motion and dynamics of his dance, So all of these things complement. And this, the aura, the frame within which he is composed, this represents the firmament of the universe, okay, and which is also active, which is burning, fire. These are all fire. Now, seeing the connection between the dancing Shiva, the Nataraja, of course, today the physicists have understood the meaning of dancing Shiva, which Fritjof Capra has already indicated in the 70s, and now in the CERN, the European Organization for Nuclear Research in Geneva, they have a headquarters there. This statue of Nataraja, they commissioned to make this huge, gigantic sculpture, and it has been installed there in honor of Fritjof Capra. So you can see now it has been validated by the scientists, the physicists from around the world, because a lot of physicists collaborate with their research. They are building the collider, the hadron collider, the gigantic collider there, and then for the fusion purpose. So anyway, so this is something needs to be understood. All right, now Shiva. There are a lot of stories about Shiva, a lot of stories about Brahma and then Vishnu and all of that. So most juicy stories come from the Shiva. Shiva being a very characteristic person with a lot of character, a lot of personality. So he's an interesting god. So the marriage, both male and female, the union of male and female. So that is what it depicted here. And there are a lot of images coming from India, from Nepal, from Southeast Asia. So I'm going to show you just a few examples from India. This one is from Kailash Temple, the famous Kailash Temple in Ellora, which is in Maharashtra. This is a relief, a life-size relief of Shiva. Shiva's marriage. Officiating priest is Brahma. Brahma as a priest officiates the wedding, and he's holding Parvati's hand, who you can see is slim, slightly demure, slightly bashful, slightly bending her head in a shy character of a female newlywed girl here. And he's obviously the great god Mahadeva, and then he's tall and proud, and he's happy having a beautiful wife like Parvati. And of course, the witness, when the wedding happens, a lot of people come to rejoice the wedding, to partake in the party. And this is obviously the celestial. He is a god. And then of course, the gods from heaven have joined to celebrate his wedding. They're all flying, they're playing musical instruments, throwing things, and so on and so forth. All right, and then of course there's another rendition of the same thing of the 12th, 13th century from South India. That one was the 8th century, going back to Ellora, the Kailasa temple. Now here, after the several hundred years later, how the same wedding has been seen by the South Indian artists. As you can see, this is more elaborate, more decorative. It almost becomes a Baroque, very, very ornate in terms of the jewelry, in terms of a crown, in terms of even the background. Look at this, beautifully done, the wedding. And then of course, Shiva is here. And then this one is in Meenakshi, actually, Parvati in the form of Meenakshi, that's what they call in South India. And being, wedded by so it's a beautifully done figure here. All right, and then androgynous form of Shiva that we already slightly hinted earlier. This androgynous is the male and female. All right, and I have sometimes seen people, and it is the Sanskrit translation is the Ardha Narishwara. Ardha means half, Nari and Nari female, Ishwara male. So male and female, half male, half female. All right, a combined, joined together. a half and half. It's 100%, split into 50-50. There's no 51 or 49. It's just a 50-50. 50 male, 50 female, equal rights, right? So that's what it is. But some people have addressed, or rather try to make it understand hermaphrodite form of Shiva. No, it is not hermaphrodite form of Shiva. That's totally wrong. If anyone tells you it's a hermaphrodite, that's wrong. It is simply male and female aspects. We're not talking about genitals here. We're talking about the characters, the qualities of male and female within oneself. Okay, and this is a unique aspect of Shiva. And you can see, and he is depicted both in painting as well as in his sculpture. This is from Madhya Pradesh, Khajuraho temple, 11th century. And here you can see the half with the breast is female, that's Parvati. That's always to his left, the better half, where the heart is, right? That is female, that is Parvati, and then the right is male, that is Shiva. And then going back to this Indian painting, here you can see again, the yellow part is Parvati with all these ornaments and everything, and then the white part is Shiva. All right, and then after he gets married, Shiva gets married, he takes his wife to Kailash. Kailash is a mountain in Tibet. Now in China, is the western part of Tibet, Mount Kailash, and that's where that's what his home is. That's where his home is. And then he has taken his wife to Mount Kailash. So then he's basking in the sun. It's very cold up there, so he brings his wife, and then he's and he relaxes up in the mountain, and he's seated there. So this is the scene. This one comes from again this is a Kailash temple in Ellora. This is a relief. Then let's go back to Nepal and examine few of the same Shiva Parvati. In this case, which is often called Uma Maheshwara. Shiva Parvati you can call also Uma Maheshwara, the same thing. Uma referring to Parvati. Now they're sitting together as a lovely, very close couple, compassionate, very loving couple here, and he's very happy, slightly smile. You can see in his face. This is a Nepali bronze image of the 10th century with a beautiful patina, bluish, greenish patina you can see on these figures. And then, of course, you have this statue from Situ, from one of the temple sites. Of course, the hand is broken, have been mutilated, much of the figures, but you can see the beautiful kind of graceful attitude, graceful posture of Shiva and Parvati. He's slightly tilted his hair toward Parvati, and she is also tilting her hair toward him. So trying to, make an eye contact. It's a beautifully done stone sculpture from Nepal. And then, of course, his vehicle, Vahana bull, is seated right there. Okay, and this one is a Shiva Linga. Again, the Shiva appears in a human form in the linga itself. This is the linga, as you can see, from South India. And of course, this is the Vahana. His a vehicle called Nandi. Bull is called Nandi. So he's always placed the vehicle in front of a temple. So by the presence of his vehicle or her vehicle, we can know what temple that is dedicated to. There is no the signboard in most Hindu temples, like in most churches always have, the Church of Christ, Church of this, Church of that. There is no signboards. There is no nameplate on a temple. It's by the presence of a vehicle, bull, or an eagle, a Garuda, or a tortoise, or a swan. You can that gives clue to the identification of the deity inside a shrine, inside a temple. Okay, and then Dakshina Murti is another popular image of Shiva here as a yogi. Again, here he's seated from India. This one is from Cambodia. This one is Sadasiva. Again, 5-headed Shiva called Sadasiva, eternal Shiva, always Shiva. So this is another typical example of Cambodian art with a unibrow, and again with the mustache. You just can't go wrong. These are the always hallmark of Cambodian art. All right, and then we have the angry aspect of Shiva, Bhairava. These are all from the mass, and one of them is simply a statue of Bhairava from Nepal, Kathmandu. And then, of course, Shiva as a Mahakala. This is a Tibetan, central Tibet. Angry manifestation of Shiva. That's the great time. Of course, this is another iconic figure of Kathmandu. In Kathmandu Darbar Square, we have Kala Bhairava, the black Bhairava, installed by King Pratapamalla in the 17th century. And a lot of tourists go to visit it. It's a big, huge statue, always being worshipped. And I see the dessert called pera stuffed into his mouth. All right, Shiva, popular rendition, the popular image today. All right, I don't know whether we have time, Professor Shakya, otherwise I can just simply stop it here. I think I have finished.
Yeah,
I've got just a few slides.
you can finish it.
All right. Now, death of Sati. Sati, his wife, the first wife, she died. And then, of course, Shiva went into a very depressive mode when someone, young wife, young or old, doesn't matter, or when they're in love, and when someone dies, and then, it has a lot of psychological toll on the husband, and then he was really in a lamentation. So he goes into hiding and carries her corpse, and then he goes around everywhere, not functioning what he's supposed to do, and then he's in a really in a depressive mood. These are some paintings that you can see here, how artists of different time period, different locations have depicted, and then he carries actually the corpse on his trisula, in his trident, covered with this shawl. This is the corpse. And then here, of course, the corpse is, and he simply puts the corpse on his back, and then he walks away. And this another sculpture here, look at the dead figure here, the corpse. He's carrying it. And there's another one here. Okay, there's another one here. This is a modern painting. And this is also another modern painting by unknown artists. All right. And then, of course, Shiva also has a lot of Jyotirlingas. Just the lingas. Lingas are the shaft, his procreative aspect of Shiva, conceived in a pillar shaft. That there are actually 64 Jyotirlingas, and 12 are the most auspicious ones, most sacred ones, and they are found in all parts of India. Somanath, Kedarnath, Rameswaram, Vishwanath, Vaidyanath, and all of those places. And then, of course, all over South India, you can see all these, the Shivalingas are carved along the banks of the river. And when the water gets flooded, river gets flooded, and then these Shivalingas submerge underwater. And then the water is supposed to be holy because, it touches the Shivalingas. That is why they're carved along the banks of the river. Now you can see all of these images all over in South India, and as well as in Cambodia. And this is from Cambodia. By the river, these carvings are done. And the water that washes down and then goes into the fields, and then the fields are kind of sanctified by the holy water. That's the idea. And then, of course, it gives you more crops. All right. And the Pashupatinath is the great temple in Nepal, dedicated to Shiva. Pashupati is the lord of the animal. That is also one of the titles of Shiva. And for that, we have to go back to 2000 BCE in Indus Valley of India. Now, of course, in Pakistan after the partition. Now, this is a tablet, a small seal, where possibly Shiva, the Pashupati, is depicted here in this seal. He sits, in a lotus position with his hands placing on his knees, with a headgear of an animal, wearing a mask, and surrounded by various animals. So it could be perhaps this hypothesis I'm just suggesting could be the first image of Pashupati, tracing back to Indus Valley. All right, then of course this is a famous statue dating to the 3rd, 4th century at Gudimallam in South India. This one here is a life-size, very gigantic statue of Linga with a statue of a human being. This is that. And then, of course, Pashupata is another sect of Shaivism, Pasupata Shaivism, that worships Lokulisha. Lokulisha is a Shiva god in a naked. He's totally naked with his erect phallus. So itiphalic is the Latin word is itiphalic, erect phallus, and then that's exactly what you see here from India, Karnataka, and then of course we also have several images, itiphalic image Lokulisha from Nepal. So it is possible that Lokulisha and a Pashupata sect was very active in the valley in Nepal as well. I think with that, then I end it here. Thank you very much for patiently listening. And if you have any questions, any comment, I'm happy to answer and hear your wise comments so that I can take my studies further.
Thank you, Shimkhada, for an outstanding, profound, insightful lectures. And let's give a give a round of applause for